Okay, we are starting the Sicha of Shabbos Parshas Reeh, and it's Mevorachim. It's the blessing in the month of Elul. So the Rebbe says like this. This is the Farbrengen. Okay, it says. Hold on a second. It says like this. Mevorach b'Likutei Torah. We learn in the Likutei Torah that about the ideas of Elul. Elul, and the month of Elul is Me'irim Yud Gibel Midas Harachmim. We have the 13 attributes of mercy. Mikol Mokem, Nachshavim Yimei Elul Yimei Sachel. Even though we have the 13 attributes of mercy in the month of Elul, still they're considered weekdays. It's not considered a Chag. That's one of the points that Alter Rebbe talks about in the Likutei Torah of Elul. Like my Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur, not like Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, which also has the shining of the 13 attributes of mercy. Nevertheless, it's considered a holiday, and because of that, it's considered a holiday. Because the whole idea of Elul is not that it's a holiday. Its idea is that the king is in the field, so to say, casual, and before the king goes into his city and his chambers, is he passes through the field. And when the king is in the field, the people of the city go out, the kabel pnei melech, to meet the king. And the king meets them with a happy, radiant face. He shows a very encouraging and loving face to everyone. And because of that, he makes himself available that anyone who wants could go and approach the king and give over whatever it is that you want to ask him about. And this is an example that the Alter Rebbe gives in the Likutei Torah to the month of Elul. But when the king is in his chamber, in his palace, not everyone has access to the king. Only certain people. And it's not only even people who have a good relationship with the king can immediately enter. You have to go through many doors and guards at the gates. And every time they check a second time, over and again, if the person actually has permission to go in. When the king is in the field, then anyone could go and approach the king and to give over what they want from the king. That's the idea. That's an example from on the month of Elul. That the month of Elul, hold on a second, the month of Elul is an example to the king in the field. Then Hashem's access to us is like the king is in the field. And that's specifically why the month of Elul is weekdays, because it's the idea of the access, that the king is accessible to us because the king is out in the field. And a person could do all the work you're allowed to do. It's not a holiday. You're not forbidden to do work. Works of the jobs of the week. We're starting the page 166 with the example of Elul. So it says, we're holding towards the bottom of the page. We're talking about that why the Alter Rebbe quotes in the Likutei Torah, why is Elul not holiday? Means it's not a Shabbos, or it's not a Yom Tov. It has the 13 attributes of the mercy. So that's the example of the king in the field. That specifically we don't.
Mine starts at page 170, the PDF.
170. Let's see what PDF do you have? It shouldn't be 170. It should be 166.
Oh, now it's 166. I don't know why it changed. Now I see it.
There you go. Perfect. So on the bottom page,
weird.
Yeah, maybe because it sometimes takes time to load up. So the idea is that specifically you could go to the king in the field, and that's the casual. That's why it's not a holiday. So the second paragraph from the bottom. So this is the idea of Elul. The idea of Elul is the king is in the field. That's specifically their weekdays. It's permissible to do work. The kol echad the kamosh hu ima uvdin the chol shla, each person as they are in their mundane, in their weekly dress, so to say, in their weekly mindset, is yochel legiel mechlim sabakashas. He could go to the king and ask what they want. L'chein omrim be'elul havaya oir v'yishi. We start saying, of course, everyone knows l'dav Hashem oir v'yishi. I think it's chapter 26 or 27 in Tehillim every day, twice a day, is that we v'toikim shofar, we blow shofar and el kol pashat. It's the simplicity of the sound of the shofar. It's not a message specific. It's just a sound of crying out. Shemekasher pshitas hanefesh im pshitas atzmas baruch. It's not about how you look. It's not how you dress. It's not what you're doing. It's the simplicity of the person, of the soul, connecting to the highest, most simple level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In every single yid, as he or she finds themselves or is in their mundane, in their weekday, so too we can connect to Hashem specifically as we are, because the simplicity of the yid connects even to the pshitus ha'atzmis, to the simplicity of the essence of God. The Rebbe continues, top page 167. So what's the avoda? Everything we know in Yiddishkeit is an avoda. So if the king is in the field, and you don't have to change yourself, and it's the way you look and the way you are, you go and you approach the king and ask whatever you want. So where's the avoda? So the Rebbe says, so what is expected from a person in Elul is you have to go meet the king. It means just the king passing through the field. Not every person goes to the king. The king is accessible, but you have to go meet him. It means if you're, like we said before, if the king was in the palace, he wouldn't have a chance possibly. Only a short list of people could go into the king, and even then, when we're not sure. But here, everyone can go see the king. But the question is, are you going to go meet him? Are you going to go introduce yourself to him? Are you going to go ask from him? He's your king. Are you going to go ask of him what the king should give you? So the Rebbe says the condition is, the avodah is lotzitz mim kaimai, the kal pnei melech. You have to go out and meet the king. Binyanim by voida. What's this mean in avodah, to go out and meet the king? What does this mean practically in our service of Hashem? You have to go out of your ideas of what you're accustomed to, your comfort zone, because you're making a conscious decision to go meet the king. By doing that, you're accepting the king as your king. That's a general preparation. You're accepting the God as your king. So you're getting out of your routine, you're getting out of your comfort zone, and you're going to say hello to the king. When the person has this turn, means the whole year you've been preoccupied. Of course, you're making time daily for Hashem and weekly for Hashem and Shabbos. But when you have this tnua, this turn, this mindset, the Rebbe says, just this idea that I'm going to meet the king. It's like the king is in the field. I have access to him. So therefore, that itself is enough, the Rebbe says, that you should actually go to the king. The Rebbe says, lifol means to affect oisbetin. Oisbetin is Yiddish, means to call out, to request. Kol habakashas, all that you need. That should be a good, sweet year. When does the idea of Elul start? When we bless the month of Elul. Means that even though this Shabbos, let's say today is Friday is the 26th, Shabbos is going to be the 27th of the month of Av, the Menachem Av. So so the first day of Rosh Chodesh is Lamed Av. So we're not really in Elul on Shabbos and Varchim. And nevertheless, when we bless the month of Elul on Shabbos, that's already a hachana. We're starting to get ready. We're starting to get into Elul. In Yoni Shel Shabbos Bechlal, what is Shabbos? The Rebbe says, the Shabbos blesses all the days of the week. That's every Shabbos. Every Shabbos blesses the days in the following days of the week, especially Shabbos that's called Shabbos Mevarchim. It's a Shabbos that's specifically meant to bless the days of the month. So its whole identity, so to say, beyond just being a regular Shabbos is that it's blessing a time outside of its 24, 25 hour space. And therefore it blesses specifically, it's connected to the days following Shabbos. Hey Aaron, because the avoda of Elul is that a person needs to accept upon himself the yoke, like we said, where's the avoda of Elul? The avoda of Elul is accept upon yourself the yoke of Hashem as king. That's the way you start the mindset of the Kabbalah's oil to meet the kings in the field. He says, "V'kivan since shechay deshel tzrich elis avoid the kabbalah sol malchus shemayim b'chlolis." And b'shabbos v'vorach el tzrich elis achlot alza. So because Shabbos blesses the whole week, and in this week is going to be Elul, and Elul's avoda is the idea that you're accepting God's your king. It means it's not just any person passing in the field; it's your king, and your king is approachable, and your king can help you. And you could ask your king to bless you for a good new year. So what's the hachlota? What's the avoda of Shabbos mivarchim Elul, the Shabbos that blesses the month of Elul? That you make the resolution. That's what I'm going to do. That comes the first day of Elul. I'm going to be the right away ready to start meeting the king. The king's accessible all 30 days. It's like you have one-time approach.
What's the word hachlata mean? I don't.
Resolution.
Oh.
So you have to make a resolution that's what you're going to do in the month of Elul. Now the Rebbe is going to connect it to the parsha. But where do you have the power to make such a resolution? It takes commitment. All of us have a lot of nice ideas, but how do we act on these ideas? So the Rebbe says, what empowers us to make this achlata, that this should be what we want to do, right? You have to want to do it to make a resolution. Is he ma'akriya b'torah parshas Reeh? Is the connection? That's why a lot of times either Ekev or Reeh is Shabbos Mevarchim, the month of El. Shmiyad b'tchilas parsha. Where does the parsha start with right away? It says, "V'sabrocha asher tishmon." That you look, I'm giving you the blessing that you should listen. Lashon vadai. The Torah is not talking in a way of doubt. The Torah is talking in an absolute certainty. Lashon shel t'nai, and it's not a condition. K'may lashon mitzad ha'epech, like it says in the other side. The Torah says, let's open up the pasuk. The pasuk says, Torah starts in Reeh, chapter 12 it is. Chapter 11, verse 26. It says, Esa bracha, you're going to get the blessing. Asher tishmo mitzvahs Hashem. And he says, and the curse comes, if you don't. There's a condition, if. But in the Torah, in the positive, it doesn't say if. It just says that the blessing comes when you listen. Blessing comes from listening. So he says, it's going to happen. This is an empowering. That means it's like this. The literal translation of the pasuk is, so it says, as a bracha asher tishmon, that you're going to listen. It's not saying if you're going to listen. You're going to do that. The Torah tells you this is what you're going to do. So when you open the Torah in Parshas Reeh, and it's the Shabbos that blesses the month of Elul, and you have to make a resolution for Kabbalah Sol, which is Asher Tishmon, to listen. That's what Kabbalah Sol is. So the Torah is telling you Asher Tishmon, you're going to listen. It's not a condition. You are going to listen. It's going to happen.
So basically, the choice that we have to listen or not, or to do mitzvahs or not, follow the Torah or not, it's not actually a choice, because it's already, the scale is already tipped that we're going to do it.
Exactly. Very good. There's the small writing. The Torah says Asher Tishmon, that's what you're going to do. You're going to listen. And that empowers you to make the decision to actually listen, to go meet the king. So the Rebbe says, this is the empowering. It's to make it easier to accept upon yourself the yoke, which is the hachlata we have to already make in Shabbos and Varch in the month of Elul, which is B'chodesh Elul. And the Rebbe finished that short opening of the talk, and the Rebbe said, the Rebbe said to sing Avinu Malkeinu. So here you see clearly, I'm not sure why it says people say not to sing Avinu Malkeinu on Shabbos. Clearly the Rebbe is saying Avinu Malkeinu and Shabbos Mevorchim, the month of Elul in the year Tavshin Tazai, the end of 1956. The Rebbe continues. Dover Beisfadish Lufneze, in the previous Farbrengen, I'm assuming Parshas Ekev. Yeah, in Ekev, the Rebbe says, Shemetzias Hagolas Surak. This Farbrengen is actually an interesting. I think I remember this Farbrengen. It's interesting. It's a very warm Farbrengen. The Rebbe said like this: Shemetzias Hagolasi Rak Biglal Hanesinis Koyach Shemitzad Bnei Yisrael Atzmam. So he says the idea that there's Golus comes from the Jewish people themselves. And this is the verse that says in Yeshaya that we read in one of the Haftarahs, that the things that destroy you are going to come from within you. The destruction of the Jewish people is going to come from within. We pass this, and seemingly that's a negative. Meaning, this is what we say in the prayer. Because of our sins, we went into Galus. It means the reason we go into Galus is not because an outside power came. Our sins caused us to go into Galus.
Doesn't this kind of isn't this contrary to what just came before, where it says it's tipped in the balance of doing things?
Okay, so to explain, it's a good question, and I'll explain it a bit better. When the pasuk says "Asher Tishmaun," it's like the bas koil. It means it's not forcing your hand. It's creating a like you said, it's creating it that it's easier to tip the scale, but it's not tipping the scale. Asher Tishmaun is like the idea of a bas koil. Why is there a bas koil? The Baal Shem Tov teaches us you don't hear it anyways. We don't. I mean, most of us don't hear the voices that call out in heaven saying "do tshuva" or what have you. So why is that? What's the whole point of it? So the point of the bas koil is your subconscious, the part of your soul that's not conscious in your body, does hear it, and that could send a message, a trigger to your conscious part of your soul to start going on the path of tshuva. But tshuva is up to you to do. The bechira, at the end of the day, the choice is yours. The Rebbe is not saying that by reading Parshas Reeh and it says Asher Tishmom, you're going to listen, is that there's no avoda. It's an empowerment that you should do the avoda to first make the resolution Shabbos and Baruchim, and on that resolution to act in it in the month of El to go meet the king. But still, the choice of yours to meet the king. We all know we all make many resolutions, and not always do we act in it. Sometimes more than 50% we don't act. Everyone has good intentions, but the question is if we're going to act.
Well, just slightly, a Jewish star on the internet said something to the effect, well, you know, the land, having the land of Israel is conditional. If you do this and that, you can have the land. But if you don't, you can't have it. But that also, other people, it doesn't mean that other people aren't there too.
Listen, the land.
So
a
friend of mine, a Jewish friend of mine, said, "I'm disappointed in this star." You know, this person who wrote that on the internet, a long piece that she did.
I can't comment. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, but in general, just the way the Torah says it, the land of Eretz Yisrael was given to the sons of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the daughters of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. It's a land for the Jewish people, and because God took us out of our land now and we're in exile because of our sins. Now that's what he's saying, that the sins is the cause of the galus. God empowers us. He gives us the strength to try to make that we should hopefully make the right choice. But the bottom line is the choice is ours. So he's saying that the sins, now he's going to explain it. Let's see how he explains it. The Rebbes like this. The word chet doesn't just mean an offense. Chet means from the word chisaron, means that that's going to be there's something lacking. Like it says, v'chatas imcha. Where's that? Imcha 14. V'chatas amecha, I think. So the Rebbe says it's not a punishment. It's not an offense. When you do an offense, where the offense is upsetting to someone, so I'm punishing you because I'm upset at you. That's not what chet is. Chet is chasaron. Chasaron means lacking. So you have to, when you're lacking something, you have to get it back. You have to fill the gap. So therefore, the idea of golus is to fill the gap. Is lemales is the sakins to fit kol chasaron. It's everything that's lacking. By idea avodah bismana golus b'tikun chasronis, and the avodah that we've been doing a long time in golus, in exile, in fixing what's been lacking. So what happens when you fix what's lacking? Like in anything, when you patch something, the idea is not to make it the way it was, but to make it stronger. It's nasa keflayim, page 168, liteshia, double. Nechama bekeflayim, like this week's next week's haftarah, a double nechama. Like we know the idea of tshuva. That what's the idea? How do you do tshuva? Tshuva is not to get back to where you were. It's brought down that shim hayirogel likre daf achas yikra beis dafim. So one of the things of tshuva is to double down. That if before you did the sin, before you had the chesaron, you did one page, one amount, so double do 2 times that, because that's the idea of tshuva. Lashon l'shanis perek echad yishayin beis perakim. If you learn one perek, you should learn 2 chapters. Like the Alter Rebbe brings down in the letters of tshuva. Just like if you rip a string, you can't make a light knot to tie back together. You have to make a strong double knot. So too, when you have a chesaron, when you're lacking something, in order to fix what you're lacking, so you end up doing more than what you then had you never sinned, or had you never had this what's lacking. Where you tie a ripped string, you make a double knot. This is the And that's why the abundance of Torah we find in Gullus. When did we have the Mishnayos after the destruction? When did we have both Talmuds after the destruction? All the Responsa, all the Rambam, all the Halachas, Chassidus, everything came after the destruction. Most of the oral law was Nizgala revealed in the time of exile. The Talmud Babli, whether it's in the Babylonian Talmud, the Babli Yishalmi Halachic Babli, we know that even not only the Rebbes says not even the Talmud Yishalmi that was authored after the destruction, but the Talmud Yishalmi is less than the Talmud Bavli, which was authored in Gullus, outside of Eretz Yisrael. And we know if there's a question, if there's a disagreement between the Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud, the law is according to the Babylonian Talmud. And most of the responsa, from the writers of the early years and the later years of the rabbis throughout the diaspora, who happened outside Eretz Yisrael. Even the responses and the yeshivas that we had in Eretz Yisrael, like I said, most of them were instituted after the destruction. So even though it was in Eretz Yisrael, as far as the land goes, but it wasn't Eretz Yisrael big dulasa the way it was in the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So too mitzvahs. Most of the takanas, the laws that were instituted by the rabbis as ways of protecting the law, were instituted in the second temple. And after the second temple, which was less than the first temple, it was even more. Many of the laws where we have precautions, it says Bnei Yisrael, the daughters of Israel, more careful in the laws of family purity. It says even though that the Torah, the written law, and even the oral law before that time was less strict, but it says that the Jewish women took upon themselves extra precautions. And this, we find all this idea, this pattern was going on more and more in the times of the exile. And the Rebbe explains that Pashtus, why is it like this? That's the whole point. Because we're in such darkness, we need more boundaries and preventatives to make sure we keep the laws. Meaning a lot of times this is the idea that a person who makes a vow says, "Wow, I'm such a holy person, I make a vow." The Rebbe always explains making a vow is a sign of weakness, not a sign of strength. It means you're not strong enough to keep the law, you need to add protection. Excuse me. So in order that the Torah has to be penetrate the double darkness of the time of exile, we need to have more light. It means the light that the Torah was giving us, was emanating let's say in the times of the first temple and maybe in the times of the second temple, is not as strong as the light that's needed in the darkness and the complications and the difficulties of the time of Gullus. But the Rebbe says that that's not enough. And that's not enough of an answer to understand about the idea of Gullus. Why? What are you saying? That the person who sins gains, the person who's lacking gains. There's two people. One person, I had this conversation literally yesterday with someone here at work. Someone saying that, of course, and he said the Baal Tshuva is much better. The Baal Tshuva sinned, and therefore was able to reveal within themselves strengths that the tzaddik, the righteous person who would say never sin, doesn't have to reveal. We said now that most of the Torah was revealed in Gullus. Most of the laws were revealed in Gullus. So what do we see? It's like a double knot. The person who sins is gaining. The person who didn't sin didn't have all this available to them. The Rebbe says, only because a person had something that's lacking, only then we get the extra light of Torah mitzvahs. Why? Because it's so dark. But it turns out that we're getting more because of the situation. What we've done caused it to be a greater light. So the Rebbe explains how it works. The idea is like this. This is the idea of tshuva. This is what's at the depth of tshuva, which is the month of Elul, is the month of tshuva and rachamim. Like we said before, when you have to tie something that's been disconnected, you have to make a double knot. Like it says, where the Baal Tshuva stands, the most righteous person can't stand on this place of the Baal Tshuva, of the person who returns to Torah. That's the idea of Golus. This idea that we were exiled from our land. That the Rebbe is saying is that the point is, it's not a chayta niska. It's not that the person this is the challenging debate of sin. But the idea is that in it, the point of the Golus is to reach the kaflaim l'teshia, the double salvation. Can do it palm like explained before. Shabagolis yeshna giluyim shel hageula asida. Specifically in the Golis, in the exile, there's certain revelations of the final redemption that we didn't have in the times of the house. When there's a light room, so you don't pay attention. That if there's more light or less light, there was never darkness. When there's darkness, you appreciate any kind of light, and you never know what the light is. Maybe the light is a very strong light. So he says, therefore, there's revolutions there's revelations in Golas that is coming from not just any light, it's light from the final redemption. But it's not revealed. And it's going to be all revealed in the time to come. Like it says, you want to have something to eat on Shabbos, you have to prepare on Erev Shabbos. When you Friday afternoon, you prepare for food, you can have what to eat on Shabbos. You want to have the light of the redemption, you have to work before the redemption. Today, in the vote at the time of the exile. Yes, we're bringing down great lights. Even greater lights that was in the times of the house of the temple. It's not revealed yet. It's going to be revealed speedily in our time. I just wanted to just explain. Then the Rebbe says the Maimer of Visamti Kad Kad. I want to explain what the Rebbe is saying over here. That the Rebbe had a question. That what you're saying is that the person who sins gains. So the Rebbe is not saying that it's not that this person who sins gains. That there's a purpose of the Gullus, and the purpose of the Gullus is that there's an inner light that's in the Gullus that only can be revealed when a person goes through the experience of tshuva, when a person goes through the experience of that the knot was ripped. At the end of the day, is where the knot was ripped, you have a double knot. That's the fact, and the double knot is much stronger than there was never ripped. So too, the Rebbe says it's not about that the person who sins gains, but there's something revealed very deep in the power of tshuva. That's essentially something you have. That light only gets revealed in a time when you need to dig into those resources that you have because of the fact that you're in a bad place, in a dark place. So it's not saying that the point is not that you're gaining from the sin specifically, but there's when a person is in a dark space, you're revealing certain energy that you never would have had to tap into. That's why I was saying the lights that we tap into in the Gullus is even stronger than the lights in the time of the house, in the base of Mikdash. And the Rebbe is going to continue now in the Farbrengen. The Rebbe Dalet, the Rebbe says in 169, the Rebbe says that they ask them to sing the Maimer Nigun, and then they said the Maimer V'samti Kad Kad. Then I think that's part of the Haftorah. Then it says like this in Sif Hey. Doiver bisvadish lufneza. We spoke in the Farbrengen previously. Shemitzias hagolas he mitzad hanesinis mokim v'achshivas shmiachsim. The Rebbe is now going to go into understanding more Gullus. The Rebbe says Gullus comes from the fact that we've given space to Gullus. We give recognition to Gullus. And the Rebbe explains, the verse says, that there's a great desert. This is a Sicho we've learned in previous years about from Parshas Eikev, that the person goes to a great desert and a wonder of a Noira, and it's overwhelming. And in the desert, there's snakes and serpents and akrav and vitzima, and there's thirst and there's no water. That's the idea of Gullus. So the Rebbe says the midbar is talking about Gullus. And what's it? Akrav again in English is a scorpion. So there's snakes, serpents, scorpions. The Rebbe explains in that Sicha, the scorpions represent, there's the hot venom, the cold venom. So we learned that Sicha, I think, last year. So the Rebbe says, what's the midbar? The midbar is talking about the exile. It's not a place that's meant for people to live in the desert. Regular people shouldn't live in the desert. What does it mean, not for person? It's not for Adam Elyon. We're a reflection of Adam Elyon. Adam Elyon is Adam Kadmon. So it's not a place for Adam Elyon, for God above, man above. If it's not a place for Adam Elyon, it's not a place for Adam Atachton. Therefore, people don't live in the desert. Our voda is to be like Hashem. And if Hashem doesn't belong in a desert, we don't belong in a desert. Hagodol, that's the midbar. And this we learned this Sicha. What does it mean? Hold on, Aaron. What does it mean, Hagodol, the great desert? We're the few. There's many nations out there. Mitzad Godol Hagolus, Bekamos. Shaychli shiaschli sboin and lachshiv oid the godel hagodel bekamos. If v'meil mitat godel hagolis bekamos. Shaykh shiaschli sboin v'lachshiv oid this godel hagodel bekamos. V'siachas el b'mitoich chashivas. A person may see, when you see the great other people, we're only a few, and you see how great the Gullus is, you may start saying it's that maybe if all the people are in Gullus and we're just a few, we're just the minority, maybe the majority is right. And that's the first way Gullus darkens a person's life. When a person starts getting overwhelmed by the numbers. I'm just one of a million people. So that overwhelms you. And that's the beginning of a person getting affected by the darkness of Gullus. Yes, Aaron.
If we're not supposed to live in the desert, a lot of Israel is the desert. We turned it into something good, but explain that, because he gave us Israel.
Eretz Yisrael is not a desert. There is desert in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is not a desert. Yerushalayim is not a desert. The Dan, Tel Aviv, Haifa.
I didn't say all of Israel, but there is part of Israel. It's a desert, and people live there who are Jewish.
Yeah, but it's not so. It's not as inhabited as. But we're talking about the Great Desert, like in the Sinai Desert.
Oh, okay.
V'hanoira and overwhelming. I mean, of course, mankind. That's actually. But you're actually bringing up a very good point, and that's the depth of the avod of Gullus. The man was able to turn places like Las Vegas into an habitable place, places like Palm Springs, places that were traditionally not a place for people. That's our avoid, is to turn that into a place that we could live in. That's even greater than just
Palm Springs is different because it has the water there, the springs,
the waters,
rivers.
Bahar Noira, what's the Bahar Noira? This is again a Sicho we learned last week. Bahar Noira is the overwhelming. Means when a person not just feels that the numbers are against them, but you also get overwhelmed in a way of fear. So much so, wow. I mean, who's not going through Bahar Noira today? Not just in Eretz Yisrael, but in Chutz La'aretz, right? The Golus is very scary. So, I mean, what's the effect of fear? The effect of fear is it's not just that you're scared because you're facing it in front of you, but even when you're sitting in your own space, the idea of it scares you. Nachash, what's the idea of the snake? The idea of the snake is Nachash gives a hot venom, and it's in effect that the passions of the world is v'seimer as sarif. That not only does it give you, is it infusing in you the passions of the world, but sarif also means to burn. The venom of the world penetrates and burns through you so much, it burns through the person through and through, that the person's totally consumed with what the passions of the world. And then the next effect is akrav. Akrav is a scorpion. That a person, not only does the person have a burn for the world, but the person has a coldness to God. That's even worse than the passion. Passion, at least you could deal with. A person who's excited, get the person excited about God. A person is cold. What are you going to do to a person who's cold? The person has no excitement. And then what happens? You're thirsty. God says, gives you a thirst. Maybe the thirst will convince you to go and try to find mayim, which is Torah. You don't know what the thirst is. You have a thirst for something. You don't know that the thirst is. You can't identify the source that's going to quench the thirst. That's Torah. Ein mayim ela Torah. That the thirst is for Torah, and that you have a thirst. You can't identify how do you deal with that thirst. You don't know where it's coming from, where it's leading you to. And where does this all start from? Where does a person get affected by Golas? When you think you're in this great desert, by thinking that the desert is so big and I'm so small, then starts the fear, then starts the passion, then starts the coldness, then starts the thirst you don't even know where the thirst is supposed to be fixed from. Means you make the world something important. You're giving value to Golas. Therefore, the Alter Rebbes says, he argued in the most strong way, and those people who try to explain that the idea of tzimtzum, that Hashem contracted, so to say, the light, that it means actually that there is no light in creation, or very limited light in creation. Because if a person thinks that, what do you want? Yeah, of course, God is great. But you made the world, you mitzamsim yourself, you contracted yourself, mamish, literally. And if you contracted yourself literally, we're in a world that's from the effect of that contraction. So what do you want from me, that I live in such a world? So the Alter Rebbe says, no, it's not Tzimtzum Kipshuta. It's not the way you think it is. It's about revelation. That because of the contraction, that God contracted himself in the revelation, that it's mamish, that it's an actual contraction, therefore there's a whole world, and the world is overwhelming. It could lead that you reach so far that you have a thirst. You don't even know it's for Torah. Because the tzimtzum means actually, you're not connected. You say, there's nothing for me in this world. God, there's very little godliness in this world. And the Alter Rebbe says, not like that. It's only about what's revealed. But God is here, Sof of Kalam is here, and as it always was. Our job is to reveal it. But Chas v'Shalom to say that the tzimtzum was actually that there is no light in this world. And the Rebbe explains 170. This is all the Rebbe has talked about the week before in the Sicho that we've learned last year. But the Rebbe obviously wants to add to that. I'm not sure we're going to get to the addition. The Rebbe says like this: The Rebbe explained that in Parshas Eikev that what's the opposite of the desert is the land of Eretz Yisrael, Sariyar. It's the land of the seven fruits. The Rebbe said we explained the different fruits to mean different ways of avodas Hashem. Chita means wheat, means your contemplation of the soul to its source of godliness. Sa'ira barley is Sa'ira is an animal feed. So barley we know from the Torah is an animal feed. That's why the Sota eats Sa'ira. That's why in Tzvir Sa'omer we do barley. So it's because then we're transforming our animal. So Sa'ira talks about this bindiness, the contemplation, not of the godly soul. The godly soul, of course, only thinks holy thoughts. But we want that the animal souls should think holy thoughts. The Geffen, and what is grapes? It's talking about Torah, that we should penetrate, even the most hidden parts of the soul should be penetrated with Torah. And all ideas of the seven fruits. His bindiness is about contemplation. Contemplation is nice, but what is that going to lead to? It has to lead to action. That there's also the te'ena, and the rimon is the pomegranate. Isa be'echad ma'amarim, it's brought down in a Hasidic Maimer. V'inyan te'ena v'rimoin. The yesh leimer. Izeu inyan biru levush machshav dir ma'isa. That's not just that we reveal the personality of our souls plural, both our animal and godly soul, but also the garments, like it says in the 4th chapter of Tanya, that the garments is our thoughts are holy thoughts, our speech is holy speech, and our actions are holy actions. By Yisoid l'shaychis the te'ena v'rimon l'inin halavushim, what's the connection to a te'ena and a rimon in garments? I think te'ena is, I always confuse, is te'ena a fig or a date? I think it's a fig. Is v'rimon is a pomegranate, l'inin halavushim to garments who yes, that it says about that the fig is they use the leaves of the fig to make garments. And when it comes to a rimon, a pomegranate, Chazal teach us rimon matzah toichai oichel klipasei zarak bahare klipa hu halavush. It says, what about a rimon? Rimon matzah toichel oichel. Klipasei zarak, you eat what's inside and you throw out the peel. No one could eat the peel of a pomegranate. So we see that part of the definition of a pomegranate, it has a thick peel, and it has, which is the idea, a peel is like a garment. What's the difference between a fig and a rimon and a pomegranate? Is teinehu gam la'achir achet. What happened? A person ate from the tree of knowledge. Some people say it was a teina, it was a fig. A date, sorry. And because it was a date, on it had the leaves. So even though the person used it for sin, but eventually he transformed it, that it should become a garment for the person. So he was able to transform it, that it should become to some sort of source of holiness. The rimon, but no one could turn the pomegranate peel into something. You have to throw the peel out. There's some things that you can't fix. Certain things you get involved in them. It's not good. But that through our voda we could transform it. There's certain things you can't fix, like a rimon represents that its peel, just got to throw it out. This is what it explains in Tanya. This is the difference between the permissible, the klipas noga, and the things that are forbidden. Things that are mamish forbidden, you can't do anything with it. You can't say, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger. and then I'm going to go and daven with that energy. That's not this. It's not called avodas habirurim. You have to totally push it to the side. Klipase zarak, like the pomegranate seed, peel, throw it out. Like it's brought down that certain vessels, the only way to fix them is to break them. The permissible, even though you could eat permissible, you could be involved in permissible, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in a way that's not holy. Right? Not every time a person eats is for to learn Torah. Not every time a person engages in intimacy is for something holy. Nevertheless, even though it's something that's physical, through Adam and Chava eating from the tree of knowledge, it made that the world became more megusham, more physical. It's not so bad. It's like the date, even though Rosa has a klipa, it's only a thinner kind of a klipa. Like klipa gasik klipa rimon. It's not like the rimon. That's why the peel of the date is obviously much softer. You eat it. Kasher huva begamar belashin klipase zarek, because the rimon you have to throw out. Only a rimon has a very thick, inedible appeal. Therefore, the date, which is not so bad, like the permissible, you could elevate and make them holy. And they're able to use the peels and the leaves to make it into a garment. That's why the Torah is going back to the pasuk in Ekev. It says about Eretz Yisrael. The Eretz Yisrael is Chita, Sa'ir, Geffen. Chita again is the contemplation of the holy soul. Sa'ir is the contemplation of the animal soul. Geffen is the idea of the Torah penetrating the person. It talks about the figs, the dates, and the rimon. That the idea when a person contemplates about God, it's also you should have proper levushim. It should take effect in how you act, not just how you understand things. That your thoughts, speech, and action should be in the way of holiness. The Rebbe goes on to explain this. So I'm going to finish off a second. The Rebbe goes on to explain this. The Rebbe goes on to continue this whole idea of galus. Let's see if the Rebbe says something else on the Farbrengen that we would want to add. It looks like this Farbrengen. I remember again, it's a very warm Farbrengen about galus and getting out of galus in the Tshuva in the month of Elul. So how does the Rebbe finish off? Let's learn the last page, 176. It says at the bottom, the Rebbe says like this: There's a letter from my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, about the month of Elul. That the Rebbe brings from the Alter Rebbe in the name of the Torah Baal Shem Tov, a teaching of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. It says, Hamichtav nitfas kvar. The Rebbe says the letter has been printed. I just want to say one thing. Lula oisies elul. The word it says, okay, let's make sure I know this Torah. 68. It says in Mikes. So it says it's talking about Mikes. It's talking about Lula hismamanu ki ata shavnu zepamayim. I think it's talking that Yehuda is talking to his father. Then his father didn't want him to go back to take Binyamin. That was the condition Yosef made. That he has to bring Binyamin. So Yaakov was hungry after a while. He tells Yehuda, "Where's the food?" So Yehuda says to his father, "Lula, he's mamanu. Had we not waited, we could have been back and forth 2 times already. You didn't want us to bring Binyamin." So the Baal Shem Tov says the word Lula is Lamed Vav Lamed Aleph. If you move the letters around, that's Elul. Shav Nezeh Pamayim. That Elul brings us back twice. Beze, which what does it mean? It brings us back twice. Beze Fanei Tshuva. There's 2 types of tshuva. Tshuva klalis v'tshuva pratis. Elul has to be a general time of repentance, means a general type of repentance. I'm returning to God, and then there's the particulars of what you need to do, what things that you're talking specifically about that need fixing or need help in the return. So that's the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov is that the idea of Elul is shavnu pamayim, to return twice. 2 types of returns that we have to focus on in the month of Elul. The Rebbe says, Yitin Hashem Yisbarach, Hashem should give. She is Shavnu Zepamayim, that we should return twice. Be'ezeh Fanei Tshuva, the 2 types of Tshuva. And we should have the general preparation and the general Kabbalah soul accepting the yoke. Shizu avoided El. That's the whole point we said of El is to be the avoid of El, like the beginning of the Farbrengen is to accept God as king. Melech Basada, our avoid is go meet him. You're acknowledging he's your king. By Deiza, you follow Kol Bakashas, and Hashem should make that all our quests, everything we want, should be actualized. Which means Shana Toiva Masukah, we should be blessed with a good, sweet year, B'chol Anyanim, in all things, and it should manifest itself in Bonei, in blessings for children, Chayi, in health, Umezoyne for Parnasa, all in the way of Revich and abundance. I want to wish everyone a good Shabbos. Thank you for joining, and
Thank you.
Kodesh. Thank you.